I got some hot hands, hand warmers. I was trying to, what's this? 2 hand warmers. Air activated natural heat. Shake to activate. Heats up in 15 to 30 minutes. Open outer package just prior to the use. Shake to activate. First time using hand warmers. Okay. Say shake to activate. I'm not trying to have my hands out in this cold. So, welcome to the graffiti jungle. Parlo pulingue. Benvenuti nella giungla di graffiti. Questo è Impostore Rockstar. It's a fake Rockstar chat show. Pensieri, tangenziali. It takes until like 15 minutes to heat up. Pensieri, tangenziali, formerly known as Tangential Thoughts Chat Show. Greatest accomplishment, 2025, keeping track of how many cigars I had. So far, I've had 296 cigari, 297. I feel like it's getting a little warm. It ain't nothing to really help with right now, but it's getting a little warm. All right. Less than 2 minutes, so. At some point today, we'll be doing 200. We might as well go to 300 today. Maybe even beyond, to infinity and beyond. So what, 298 should be 298. 299. 200. 299. 299. 300. I'm gonna look it up, but it may be 300. 300. 300. Because 200 was 200. And I didn't know 100. And I didn't start learning until I got to 200. And when I got to 200, I started keeping track after like around the 230, 240 mark or something like that in Italian. So that's why I didn't know 200. And I knew 270, 60, 70, 80, and I learned 90 yesterday. Okay, so it's just a conversation. The word God, Jesus, bless you, all those phrases are blocked. So I wouldn't encourage you to try to say it. You might want to use one of them other words. You don't know me. So don't make I see your comment. I don't like fake positivity. I don't, you gotta guard your heart. I see your comment, but you don't know me to call me a wonderful person. And I don't know you, and I wouldn't call you a wonderful person. You see what I'm saying? So now a person asked a question. And so what I like to do is give varying perspective. I don't care what you believe. I don't care if you do or don't believe. It's just interesting to talk about. One thing within conversation is to be able to entertain the idea without adopting or accepting it. And I like to do that from both sides. Or multiple sides, varying opinions. So there was a question posed. Now the question said, and so again, depending on where people are with their faith, their spirituality, uh, or whatever they believe in, then certain things come up. You know what I'm saying? So now, because some people, um, there's a lot of varying viewpoints. It just came to my head. One is like with the atheists, somebody said, if you need to have a religion to be a good person, I don't, I'm not sure about your intention here. Like that, does that make it genuine? The only reason you're a good person or decide to have a moral compass, that was one of the words that came up in a couple comments, a moral compass. If the only reason you have a moral compass to be a good person or to do good things is because of a religion, I'm not sure about what that says to you as a person and your actual genuine character. You're only doing this because why, right? It leads into a couple of things. What was the question? The question said, what does God gain to send you to hell to burn for eternity? What does God gain for sending you to hell to burn for eternity? Now, a person responded. First thing said was, like, why would you reject God, right? Why would you reject God? And a person said, to gain freedom. It was like, what do you gain by rejecting God? And you gain a freedom of heart. Who's to tell you what's good and bad, and you decide what to say and do? You gain a freedom. You're not thinking about all of these other things of this life that you have that's not too long. You got 70 to 100 years, right? 70 to 100 years, which a lot of people understand is not a long time. It's not a long time. You got 70 to 100 years, right? Which is not a long time, especially in an eternal sense. There's an infinite amount of time before you exist, and there's an infinite time after you exist. You will never be able to prove your existence. So the other part was, well, it doesn't sound very forgiving, right? Now, somebody said that, why would you, why would he force you to spend an eternity with him when you didn't choose him here? So why would you reject God? Somebody said you gain a freedom of heart. You're more free in your action and your speech. You don't have a reason outside of you to be good, right? Now somebody then came back and it was like, I forget, because I'm misphrasing how the question was originally posed, and so I saw your statement. I saw your question, but I'm not even sure if you spelled the word recession correctly. So instead of me reading the chat, you should look up how to spell the word recession. I'm not even sure if the word that you just said is a word. I don't know it. I probably couldn't define it. And why would it put that? Now, depending on how the original thing was phrased, someone said, it's funny that you assume there's an after, right? It's funny that you assume that there's an after. Uh, which is one of the things that that's why I said the other person who came on and said that why would he force you to live with him forever when you rejected him here? And so it then also comes another thing that comes into conversation is he created you, right? And you're a perfect creator. What's the point of a really good question somebody once posed is, why would you make humans if you already have angels? Why would you make humans if you already have angels? And so, with that, right? With that, people not knowing or doing any and all of this stuff, right? And just living. And this is why I said the other day that if no one told you, if no one told you there was a God, you wouldn't know there was one. You wouldn't believe in one. The only reason you believe in one is because someone told you. Someone force-fed you some type of ideology. You wouldn't have no bearing about if a God exists at all if no one ever told you one about that. You had no bearing at all with that. There would be no reason, there would be no other reason outside of yourself for why you do and say certain things. And whether that's being in for what's good and what's bad. If no one ever told you about a God, you wouldn't know about a God, and therefore everything you say and do would not be based off of a potential punishment. And not only that, a punishment that lasts forever, right? A punishment that lasts forever. And what would be the purpose of coming here at all? What would be the purpose of coming here at all? Just to then have to burn in eternity when in a short time span you particularly in one sense, if you did not know anything and nobody ever told you about a religion or anything to believe in, you wouldn't know that you were supposed to have a choice to believe. You see what I'm saying? I hope I'm at least phrasing that part right, because I feel like I'm missing the actual phrasing of the question. Actually, let me do that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the actual question, the actual statement says, so after burning us in hell. Okay. That's what the actual question says. So after burning us in hell for eternity, or it didn't say eternity, and so that was the other part. So after burning us in hell, what does God gain? And so that's why a person said, it's funny that you assume that there is an after, right? Which is another one of those reasons that would turn somebody away from believing. Dang, I got one chance and I didn't even know that this is how things were supposed to go, and I was supposed to live my life a certain way. And so the original question says, what does God gain? So after burning us in hell, what does God gain? And what type of game is that to play with a measly human? What type of game is that to play? I'm gonna put you down here You mess up, you burn in hell for the rest of eternity. What type of game is that? What type of game is that? So after burning us in hell, what does God gain? That was the question. So somebody said, it's funny that you assume that there's an after. It's just that's what's just gonna happen. And so that makes somebody else be like, well, dang. Does that sound like a forgiving? Does that sound like mercy? Does that sound like grace? You went out here, you had 70 years. People back then had, apparently, or it's not literal, it's metaphorical, it's allegorical. When is it literal? When is it metaphorical? When is it allegorical? It don't, when I read a book nowadays, it says, hey, man, I just read a book the other day. It said the title of the book was called one thing. You open the book, it says, that's not the real title of the book. This is the real title of the book. I just didn't want certain people. The book literally said I didn't want certain people saying these words. So I titled, the outside cover says this, but this is the real title for this book. Books have footnotes. Yeah, there's this. And sometimes the book says it needs to explain this, that, and the third, boom, boom, boom. So some people will say, man, it's literal or it's metaphorical. It's saying this, but it means that. It's allegorical. It's saying this and it means that. Okay. But it didn't say that in the book. It didn't say that while you was reading it. So where'd you get this interpretation that it means something else? So what does God gain after burning us in hell? That's why somebody was saying, you know what? One of the other atheists says, I forget how the exact quote goes, but you believe in one God and I just don't believe in one more. Because there's so many, right? That's funny. And it's like, can you at least appreciate that joke, right? Crispy souls. What does God gain after burning us in hell? Crispy souls. Maybe he like hot food. Cook him again. He snacks on crispy souls. There's a lot of killing in the Bible. Who that was ordained. Yeah. Whatchamacallit ain't doing that. Oh, the snake. Oh, the snake, right? What does the snake do? The snake tricks the one girl into saying she can be more like a god. She can have more creativity. She can have freedom. Free will. Does free will really exist? You giving people the free will and saying you might burn in hell, but I ain't gonna let you know that. A little bit of salt, delicious. This is our heaven, and hell depends on which side we decide to work on. Oh, that reminds me of the quote. I think it's from Shakespeare. Hell is empty, and all the devils are here. There's over 100,000 sects of Christianity alone. And it's why are there so many deviations from the truth? Not even just speaking about Christianity. Why are there just so many deviations from the truth? Buddha, Muhammad, Krishna. And then, how many names does this one entity being have? Almost sounds schizophrenic. Don't worship nobody else but me. Almost sounds narcissistic. But I mean, why would he force you to live with him when you rejected him now? It makes good sense. He created you. He knew you in an eternal sense. He knew you was going to reject him. He's all-knowing, omnipresent, omnipotent, all-knowing, everywhere at the same time. Outside of time, existing outside of time. Alpha and Omega, no beginning and no end. Why? What would be the purpose and the point? There's all these gods. And, some people just say, I'm not going to believe any other one. From far away, you got two religious people arguing about who has a better imaginary friend. I think humans have an inflated sense of their importance. There's no heavens or hells, just idiots clinging onto a rock. Now, the idea and the concept, there's books that certain people might read, and they say, hey, have you ever read Dante's Inferno? There's this concept of hell. And one of these predates the other. Just clinging onto a rock. Now, mind you, like I said, you being born, if no one ever told you what to believe in anything, you would not believe in anything. If you had a kid and you never told them about a God or a religion, how, when do you think that they would ever know that there is one? Right? I'm mentioning that because the statement said, idiots clinging onto a rock. The rock being Earth, right? With that, I'm saying that to say, if you ain't know that there was going to ever be a God, why are all the planets named after gods? Why would you name all? And I say that to say, you cannot prove that another planet exists. You literally cannot prove that another planet exists. There's no proof. You have no actual proof. You couldn't prove to somebody without a shadow of a doubt. You can't prove to anybody without a shadow of a doubt. There is still debate on whether you can get to the moon or not. They're still trying to do that. You would have thought that after 40 to 50 years, it'll be a little bit easier. We got cell phones, television, best thing since sliced bread. You can make French toast by dipping bread and ice cream and melted ice cream. Throw that in the pan with some melted butter. You can make French. There's a lot of things you can do. If you do something once, you do it again. They just kind of gave up on going to space and exploring the ocean. You can't prove another planet exists. So why are all the other supposed planets named after gods that don't exist? Why are the days of the week named after gods that you don't believe in? You don't believe in those gods, but you think that there's planets named after the gods. You go by Monday, Tuesday, Tears Day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The days of the week are named after gods. You don't believe in those gods, but you live by Monday, you live by the days of the week. Heaven is a safe place with less demons. There's demons there. It's a perfect place. I mean, could you have a perfect demon? Heaven is a perfect place. Nobody believes that they're perfect. And a perfect creator could create something not perfect. They're going to get you. Well, the first question was, this is a perfect place. You can only get in if you're perfect. You going to say, I'm not perfect? Well, I don't think you should be here. It's a perfect place. A lot is up for interpretation. Whose interpretation? Can you interpret it wrong? If you can, again, what is the purpose of being able to do this? What's the purpose of sending people down here to mess up and live with an eternal consequence? Again, going back to the beginning, it is, if there's so much forgiveness, because I heard this once before and it made sense. If you continuously punish a child, you got to make the punishment fit the crime. After a certain point, the child becomes desensitized to punishment. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter if they do good or bad, because they just going to get punished. They're going to get punished either way, right? A child, if you punish a child and they like, I was doing good, still got punished. I did bad, got punished. I did this punishment don't even fit this. Why is there such a, what happened to forgiveness? Mercy, grace, unconditional love. But there's a curse on man for eternity. When you gonna lift the curse? Didn't somebody pay for all the sins? When you gonna lift the curse? Why are people still living under a curse? What happened to mercy, forgiveness, grace? It's been thousands and thousands. It's been millions, but it's been years. How long you gonna have? Well, why is there an eternal curse? And the sin's been paid for, allegedly. What happened? What's going on? Make it make sense. Why is there still a punishment? You're like, wasn't he one of the first people? I wasn't even one of the first people. And I came after the supposed, and after that other supposed, and all these other supposed avatars, messiahs, and prophets. Does this not a question? Might as well ask, why is language? Language is also weird. I'm not sure. You can't see them, right? I don't particularly think that we know what a star is, which is one of the reasons why the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, How I Wonder What You Are. It's a children's poem, but it's quite literally, don't nothing else shine like that. And the only reason I'm sitting here saying that is, that means Earth is also a star. Because there's no reason that all the other planets shine and twinkle and Earth don't shine and twinkle. And I know Earth don't shine and twinkle because when the sun go down and let's say that there's a new moon and it ain't no street lights and it's on the third, it's dark. You can't see nothing. Don't nothing on Earth shine or twinkle. And if it did, it's not going to shine and twinkle for, they was like, another thing is that people was like, space is only 62 miles away. It seemed like a short distance, and it's really not. I think they said the tallest mountain is like 5 miles high or something like that. 5.5, Mount Everest or something. Or even taller one, is whatever. You can't see no daggone planets. The stars twinkle. Earth don't twinkle. Earth don't twinkle. You're not going to tell me that if you was on a star, or suppose another planet, you could look down at Earth and Earth is going to be twinkling. It's not. Don't nothing shine that and it ain't going to shine that far to be able to see. For a star that you can't see, and you can't see no details on, you think you're going to be able to look down at Earth and Earth is going to be twinkling? If you're the distance of a star away, if you're a light star away, whatever, I'm trying to figure whatever distance a star could be. If you're that far away, you think you're going to see Earth from that far away? Earth don't twinkle. So these little stars in the sky twinkling, I don't think we actually really know what a star is or what another planet look like or none of that. And if heaven was perfect, then how did all those angels fall? Great question. Great question. If evil didn't start on Earth, then wasn't evil already in heaven? Ooh, great question. Great follow-up question. Great follow-up question. Only 6,000. Depends on the angle you're looking at. Well, give me another angle of perspective. Give me another angle of perspective. Like this is, my whole thing is not to entirely refute any side or anything. Pick a side. Stand for something but fall for nothing. All I'm just saying is, on both sides make sense. A little bit of both. A little bit of something. You know what I'm saying? Because the other part of it is like Napoleon has a good quote. Napoleon has a good quote. He used religion to control people. And it makes sense. That's just a saying from Napoleon Bonaparte. You use religion to control people. And again, somebody then said, you know, a lot of self-help books are just rewritings of certain books. That's what it sounds like. Another subscriber said, all these religions sound like a big telephone game between countries. That was one of the best analogies I heard. All these religions sound like a big telephone game between countries. And if you've ever played the telephone game is, or if you don't know what the telephone game is, if you're in a classroom, a teacher would say something, whisper something to one student. And then that one student has to say that one, whisper it to the rest. There's no question about asking, what did you say? Can you repeat that? There's none of that. The next one, and you got to just repeat that to the next one. And it has to keep going. Just word of mouth, right? People aren't writing. People aren't reading. Just word of mouth. What sound did you hear? What sound did you hear? I think I heard this sound. I think it sounded like this. Now, what if there's a lot to keep track of? What did you just say? They go back to the next. I'm not sure about this part or that part. Man, fill in the gaps. Fill in the gaps, man. Okay, if you're looking at the night side of the earth, you see nothing. The other side is lit up by the local star. The local star meaning the sun. The local star meaning the sun. Because other than little, I guess, caveat to the statement is, one part of them is always being shined upon or twinkling. Because that's when you see the star. That's when you see the stars. Or you notice that you're able to see them. They're always shining. They don't have a reason to stop shining. Because basically what you're saying is one part of the earth is always shining. And the reason I say that is because taking that into account, right? This is just applying the same logic universally, right? Even the word universe is one, uniform, all look at one, just one. So even with that logic, you're going to have to see the shiny part of the other ones, because apparently there's only one star that we all circle around. You're going to have to see the shiny part of their side, which will, because basically that would mean that even with the rotations if that's how things are supposed to go, even with rotations, then the other side, it would just make sense, because they said that not all of them are spinning at the same speed and none of that, right? And none of them are on the same path. They all have different orbital radii. They all have different orbital radii. And again, you would not, if just based off of the way that I am understanding the way you said it, if you look at the night side of Earth, you see nothing, right? The other side is lit up by the local star. So one side of Earth is being lit up and you apply that same logic to all the other supposed planets, only one side of them would be lit up. And yet, that means at some point you would not be able to see them. They're spinning at different, again, spinning is a whole nother whatchamacallit, but then they would be spinning at different speeds. They're also at different orbitals and orbital radii. They're all different distances. You should not be able to see the rest of the supposed stars or planet. You would not be able to see them. You would not be able to see them because the assumption then, following that same logic, is that there would be a dark side to them in which you would not be able to see them. Only one side of them would be able to lit up. But yet, every night, you can see the same ones in the same position. And when I say position, I mean, for instance, when you look up in the sky, in the night sky, there's three in particular that are in a line. There are three in particular that are in a line. And again, it's not going to make that much sense for all these to be spinning at different orbital radii, and different orbital radii, and what's the other part? Like we see them spinning at different orbital radii. You should be able to see the dark sides of those. Astrophysics is a fascinating field. Maybe watch some YouTube videos. Depends on your angle.